to this committee. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and the recording of the public section of the meeting shall be uploaded to the City Corporation's website for up to 1 civic year. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome for anybody listening online. Yes, you've got me in the chair today because Helen Fentiman, unfortunately, is unwell. So I'm sure you'll all give me a very easy time. Hey, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for the committee to note that the Chair would like to propose that item 21, the investment in social housing stock, be received following item 16, non-public outstanding actions of the committee are content for that.
Okay, you happy with that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we'll turn to the item in non-public section. So the first item is item 1, which are apologies, and apologies have been received from Helen Fentiman, Joanna Abeyi, Deputy Christopher Hayward, Deputy Qureshi, Laura Jorgensen, Deputy James Thompson, Mark Wheatley and Jason Pritchard.
Okay, any others? Anybody knows? Oh, okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you. Therefore, turning to item 2, which are members' declarations. I'm going to ask if any members in the room have any declarations. Oh, pardon.
Only just a reminder that because I actually live on Fan Street and so I know and Cup at Harring House, so I just want a reminder on that thing.
I think you might have a standard declaration about that actually, John. Yeah. Anybody else? No. Okay, thank you, Town Clerk.
Thank you. And then we turn to item 3, which are the minutes, and these to agree the public minutes and non-public summary of the previous meeting held on 17th of September 2025 from page 7 of the main pack.
Everyone happy to agree these? Yeah, okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So turning to item 4, we have the public outstanding actions, and these are for information, but starting on page 17 of your main agenda pack.
Sorry, what we're being asked if
Ask a question by a member in the room and a virtual question.
yes, Philip. I think the answer to that is and Mark, get somebody in the room to ask your question. Okay, anybody want to ask anything on the actions outstanding? Nope. Okay, thanks, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll take those as noted, and therefore turning to item 5, which is the York Way Estate lift lobby and stairwell refurbishment and upgrade works. And this is for decision starting on page 19.
Okay, do we have an introduction to this or?
Thanks.
Are we having an introduction to this? Anybody, any officer or not? Peter, please, thank you. Put your microphone on, Peter.
Beg your pardon. I'll just briefly introduce the paper. This thank you. Just briefly introduce this paper. It's much needed lift replacement and works at York Way Estate. They are in real need of replacement, and this has been going on for some time, and we have here what we think is a deliverable, although longer than we would think, approach to replacing lifts there, which caused some concern to residents. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, any questions? Naila.
Why do we need consultants to undertake something like this?
We need consultants to help us to get the lift specifications right, to make it as cost effective as possible. We need consultants who are, especially in matters such as mechanical and electrical matters, who are versed in being able to make sure that the works are delivered on site to specification. We have in the past tried to do this sort of work in-house, and it hasn't necessarily been the most successful way of progressing. So as a result of looking at the programme slightly differently and expanding it, we are trying to involve more specialist staff in these matters.
Thank you, Chair. I'm the lead member for the Islington Estates. So this is a question that's come to me from Claire Zammit, who is a local councillor in that ward. So given that the lifts are faulty now on a weekly basis, how is the City of London going to keep the residents safe in the run up to the works taking place? So that's the first part of the question. And what is the current fire risk? The fire risk is mentioned on page 25 of the project briefing. So at a recent residents meeting, the residents expressed their frustration and disappointment and their real concern about risk. Thank you.
Peter.
Okay, excuse me if I don't get all of them. So the first one was about how we're going to keep people safe until these lifts are replaced. As part of the work, and sometimes it doesn't quite worked as we would hope. We have purchased some extra parts which we keep on site to do works. Obviously, sometimes the part we have actually got in stock, as it were, is not the part that has gone down, but we will keep that under review and we will purchase more parts to keep it safe. We register the lifts being out with the LFB. There's a portal which we use to do that, and we've adopted the practice of, when we know lifts are out, deploying extra resource on the estate to help those residents who need extra assistance. So that's a mixture of parts and extra assistance from porters when on site. And then you made mention of a health and safety point deeper in the paper.
Yeah, what is the current fire risk?
The current fire risk is that we are covering the current fire risk with the actions that we are taking. And obviously, if anything changes, we keep an eye on it. And if anything changes, we will adapt our practices to make sure that we keep that in hand.
Sorry, I'll just come back just because it is about fire, and I think we're all quite mindful of that. So if lifts go out, say 6 o'clock on a Friday night or 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning, staff are deployed to cover the risk.
We haven't deployed staff over the weekend to date. That's obviously something that we can consider moving forward. I know that post Grenfell there's a difference of opinion as to the staying put policy. So our current policy is stay put, so people stay in their homes. The fire brigade, our information boxes are on site where we indicate if there be any residents who are vulnerable and would need extra assistance. And during working hours to date, we have deployed extra resource. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are keeping under review the parts that we hold on site. And also, I think something which will help is that the current maintenance contractor is coming to the end of their contract. We have got another contractor waiting in the wings to be mobilised, and we're expecting a more responsive service from that contractor.
Thank you.
You want to come back to Dawn?
Thanks, Chair. I understand that the lifts need repairing. I just wondered what consideration on the impact of the cost of the recharge to the leaseholder is, given the major works programme as well, and likely that many of those leaseholders probably bought under the right to buy scheme.
I can't give you any idea on what we're looking at in terms of the Section 20 process at the moment, but I'm quite happy to look at that and come back to you. And you're not talking about ongoing, you're talking about the replacement of the lifts. Okay, that we will work through that in due course once we've got more information on the financials and and we can carry out the Section 20 process. And if there are any other issues which come to mind during that process, we will make any necessary adjustments as we would do with other Section 20 processes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so obviously, Peter, there is concern that while this work is waiting to be done, that we make sure our tenants and leaseholders are safe, and maybe you could do a note to Anne after the meeting about exactly what we are doing. Are people happy to agree this? Okay, thanks very much. Town Clerk.
Thank you, committee. So now turning to item 6, which is the corporate parenting strategy 2025 to 2028. And this is for decisions starting on page 33.
Okay, Ellie, you're going to
Yeah.
say a few words?
Thank you, Chair. So this report asks for decision for members to approve the new corporate parenting strategy for 2025 to 2028. We've done a big revision of it. We did have one before, but there's 5 key strategic priorities in the corporate parenting plan, which is about home stability, health and wellbeing, education, employment and training, the voice of children and young people, and transition to independence. As members will know, it's all our responsibilities at the corporation, both officers and members as corporate parents. And this report will also be going to the Court of Common Council for awareness raising about members' roles as corporate parents. Also, just to say, there's a report on page 55 as well, which is the annual report on corporate parenting. So all the things the corporation has done in the past year in terms of corporate parenting. So it's the members' decision to approve this strategy, and we can bring back updates as we go along with progress of the strategy.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. Any questions, comments? Sandra.
Thank you. My point is that the risk register, which is really important, is illegible, I'm afraid. Page 30 and 31. It's not. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Item.
That was the previous item. Sorry. Sandra, catch up.
Well done, Sandra. Sarah.
Really welcome the strategy and the voice of young people at the heart of it. And it felt like the principles and the values were very much in line with what we see best practice across the UK. My question was really about, I think, this floating one that seemed like it appeared in different pieces, which is, and what will be the role of young people in the governance and the implementation of this? Because there is so much good stuff in there about what this should be like. And as I think one of the young people themselves raised, how will we pay attention to what this is in fact like in practice, and what role will they have in saying whether or not we're living up to our ambitions?
Of course, thank you for the question. So the Children in Care Council, represented by Children in Care and care leavers, is the main governance basis from which children are consulted and engaged and help inform decisions about what their services are, both now and in the future. So that's an ongoing mechanism. We have an annual independent survey, which was the main basis for which we were able to shape a lot of what's in here. And that goes to all children and families who are open to children's social care and early help. It's independent and it's annual. So another important source of information. So they're the 2 mechanisms. One's an ongoing basis with young people directly. The second one is the independent survey. And then there are others as well in terms of casework. We get feedback through direct feedback from young people to their social workers, etc., through our complaints and compliments processes, etc. So there's a number of ways and means of listening to young people, making sure their voices are heard.
We'll come back.
Sorry, very last thing. I just noted, I'm sorry, I can't remember which page it was now, that somewhere it said that within the Children in Care Council, one of the things that still needed strengthening was the voice and the role of young people in strategy and decision making. So fantastic that those mechanisms are in place, just sort of noting that actually making sure that that's reflected in the actual decision making feels really key.
Sure.
Note that the survey found that 76% of care leavers felt safe in their lives. So that's 1 in 4 that probably are feeling unsafe. Was there any further investigation into what the criteria were that made them come to that conclusion?
Thank you for the question. So there's a couple of things. One is that the survey is anonymous, which does make it a bit more challenging for us to be able to go directly to young people and say, we think you might have said this, but we have enough information with the young people that we work with to have a sense of who those young people might have already reflected in their, for example, the work they do with their social workers, where they're not feeling or how you define safety at a particular point in time. So there are some young people, for example, who've got some mental health issues. We're supporting them. They may be living in an area where they feel less or they feel slightly vulnerable potentially because there may be circumstances in that area where there's been maybe higher crime rates, and we will work with them and their providers to hopefully alleviate those concerns. We work with the Children Care Council. Every month we have particular themed groups with them, and we do explore and talk to them about what issues that may be concerning or worrying them. One of the things about our cohort is they're young people who have often have come from another country where they've been subject to quite extreme trauma. So we, again, on an ongoing basis, are supporting them on that. So the primary area around safety is about mental health. And I wouldn't want to say that everybody in the cohort, and you quote a figure of 1 in 4, like all surveys, somebody at a particular point in time might not be feeling unsafe 3 weeks later at the point when they had the survey, but I'm not diluting the significance of it. We work very hard with them in relation to post-traumatic support. We have systemic therapy available for them. We will access that if they need it, for example, if they are feeling unsafe. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Anybody else? No? Okay. People happy to agree this? And as Ellie says, we intend to put this on the agenda of court, because it is important that all members understand their responsibilities as corporate parents. Okay, agreed. Okay, thank you. Town Clerk.
Just very quickly, the committee are agreed to forward on to Court Council, just a government.
Oh yeah, we need to be the people that do that.
Yeah.
You're happy to do that. They are all happy to do it.
Thank you very much. And therefore, turning to item 7, which is the allocated members to the various housing estates. And this is reported for decision on page 61. And it's just requesting to endorse the appointments to the allocated member scheme made by the Housing Subcommittee.
Okay, so I think we've already done that. Munsa.
Thank you, Chair.
You don't need to stand up, but you can if you want.
I was going to say, I'll sit down and make myself more comfortable and fall in line. One of the things we spoke about before the summer recess as well was about the options of looking at the Mansell estate. And I know this doesn't currently sit here, but I want to raise that again because it was raised at PNR twice. It was raised at Court of Common Council twice. It was raised here at least 2 times. And the one thing we were looking at was that, and was promised as well, as is a working party through PNR, not directly through here, but the chair was aware of this as well. And I've seen, and my residents have seen no action to that. So I'm just mindful that we've had this conversation in the last 4 months at least, and ongoing before my election as well. And I know whilst this is not a part of this, we acknowledge that there is a system that we can explore having that representation. I just want to know that is this potentially a chance that we have it in here? Because I've got my fellow councilman, John Fletcher, in here in this part as well. But I know it's a separate thing. I'm just raising it again because I don't have any responses to go back to my residents and say what the process may be.
I admire your opportunism, and we'll ask Judith to give you a response.
Yeah, thank you. As members know, we have no Guinness Trust are responsible for that estate. We will meet with Guinness Trust to see what levers we can pull in terms of influencing them on some of the concerns that residents have. So we're happy to take that approach. We've been occupied with various inspections recently, so we haven't been able to turn to that, but we will do. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to raise, we had a very bad flood yesterday. Fire brigade had to attend. It's affected all the flats, and it's just that the ongoing issues there. And I'm looking at the local authority point of view that I'm not expecting city to step in and provide funding for redevelopment, etc. But there's been very little in terms of the local authority part where we can have some influence, and that's where the working party or something like the working party could come in. And my biggest concern is that we are getting similar responses for many months that we look into it, do something. I want to see something that I can go back to residents and say, hey, there is a working party. There is at least something that it doesn't fall through the gaps, please.
Yeah, thank you. I don't specifically recall the conversation about working party, but I'll take that at face value. Thank you. We'll talk to our environmental health colleagues and see what influence they could have. As you know, our emergency colleagues responded swiftly last night, and I know that Peter's team were instrumental in organising accommodation for some vulnerable families. So that work was joined up, and we took active part in our responsibilities and went, in fact, above and beyond our responsibilities in that particular instance last night. Thank you.
Thanks. John.
Just to add to that, I think this is going to be part of the official review into housing governance that starts in March. And I think the first thing we need to establish is exactly what authority, rights, etc. we as a local authority have over an independent trust. But I know, if my memory serves me correctly, the chairman of PNR committed to that being part of the working party's remit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right. Happy to endorse subcommittee's recommendations about members. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So turning to item 8, which is the Golden Lane Leisure Centre update, and this is on page 65 and is for decision.
Simon, you can say a few words?
I am. Thank you, Chairman. So yes, an update for members. It's an ongoing and significant project for the committee, the refurbishment of Golden Lane. Members recall that funding has been secured for the refurbishment of the centre. That refurbishment is long overdue. We're very aware of the poor condition of the leisure centre. And we've entered into a pre-construction agreement with an organisation, Alliance Leisure. They're a specialist provider working in the leisure industry. They are working with us to secure that refurbishment. So they have established and appointed now a multidisciplinary design team, including architects Faulkner Brown, project managers, heritage consultants, planning consultants, MEP consultants, all of the necessary skills and expertise required for the leisure centre, which described this morning by our architects as quite a unique facility and quite a precious facility, which is long overdue for some love and attention. So we have that design team, and at this stage they are pulling together design proposals with some early engagement with targeted user groups at this stage, and we had the first meeting this morning with other relevant stakeholders, which was members from Aldersgate, and we have one at 6 o'clock this evening with some other local members. So we are at that process that will inform some more full design concepts, which will be subject to wide-scale public consultation in the new year. And I'll make sure that all members and we use all of our outlets to promote that engagement, so we can get as many voices and opinions and input in shaping that final design. You'll see in the paper I make reference to some of the energy considerations, and that is an issue for decision in this report. I'll come to that shortly. I just wanted to reassure members as well that we are looking around the quality and the environment that surrounds the leisure centre. We realise that we don't want just a beautifully refurbished leisure centre without attending to some of the wayfinding, the lighting, the soft landscaping around that area. We'll also be procuring a new operator for the leisure centre during this process, so that we will have a new contracted or a new contract for the operator of the leisure centre and a fully refurbished centre when it reopens following that works. There's reference in the paper around considerations of what we may do as a meanwhile approach. Naturally, the refurbishment of the centre will require some, possibly all of its facilities to close for a period of time. Our initial preference will be to see if that we can have a staged programme works that might keep some of the facility open, perhaps the gym in a location, whether it's in the existing space or the sports hall space during the works, but that may add complexity and cost. So we have to balance that opportunity or plan with whether our budget can sustain that during the period of the build. We've given thought to whether there might be any other local space we might utilise. That is theoretically possible, but of course that would come with an operational budgetary request. And so, mindful of the tight budgets that we face, I don't want to overcommit. There is a possibility that the only option is closure of the centre for a period. We've spoken to partners who specialise in this area. They say that does happen. There are sort of sound approaches, marketing approaches, things that can be put in to make sure you entice back your users and your members, financial inducements, perks and whatever. So whilst it's impactful during that period, when you get the prize of a new refurbished centre, you're normally able to attract back your members. I've made reference in the report to the tennis courts. Members around the table are very diligent in advocating their interest that we try and keep the tennis courts open during the refurbishment. All I can say is that any user, whether it's users of the gym, the swimming pool, the sports hall, or the tennis courts, are going to be impacted during that period. It would strike me as more likely that the tennis courts will provide the space for equipment and material storage during the refurbishment. We can look at alternatives, but that may add complexity and cost. There are other spaces on the estate, but I can imagine I would also hear many members' voices around the potential impact if we started storing building equipment elsewhere. So we're certainly aware of the ask. I think I can't promise that the tennis courts will stay open, but I can promise they will be refurbished and relaid and be beautiful when the works are finished. The issue decision today that we're trying to progress your early thinking on is around the energy supply to the new centre. We have budgeted for replacement boilers for the like-for-like that's already there. In planning terms, in sustainability terms, in terms of our climate action strategy, replacement boilers would be the least desirable approach. It would be contradictory to the commitments of that strategy and our own planning advice. I've been working very close with my colleague here, Mark Donaldson, from our energy team to look at what the alternative scenarios are. Broadly, the options that we're presented with are linking to the CityGen network as a district heating source, air source heat pumps, or ground source heat pumps. We have commissioned some study into those options back in 2023, I think it was, Mark, to try and evaluate that. We think that the requirements of the borehole for a ground source heat pump would be very deep and very significant, and trying to drill that beneath the tennis courts in the middle of a residential estate, we think is impossible, as well as some very the cost implications of that. Air source heat pump, there are heritage challenges because of the visibility of the units, some noise impact as well. And again, we've had some medium and long-term costing models that suggest whilst it competes, that we still consider that the link to the CityGen network is the most viable and the most sustainable solution for us. It comes here for decision. There's a caveat with the decision that to achieve that, we will still need to go through some formal governance to secure some Section 106 carbon offset funding that's available, particularly for this type of work, that would fund the link to the CityGen network, which would require, is cabling the right word, Mark? Pipes to be laid along Fan Street so that it can be funneled into a plate exchange at the back of the centre. The early decision on that will also enable us to identify that we can free up some of the current boiler room space, which will either provide for additional facility or additional storage. So it will be part of the design operation of a future centre. So the decision before you is around the energy option. Our recommended approach is that our favoured approach is the CityGen link up, and obviously Mark and I are here if you have questions on that or any of the other issues.
Right, thanks, Simon. I like the way that Simon tried to predict what some of the questions might be from members of the committee. Just to remind us that this isn't the consultation about the sports centre, okay, the leisure centre. So that's going to be taking place over the next few months. It doesn't stop you making a comment here, obviously, but the decision we have to make is the one about the about CityGen. I think, given how long Simon's spoken for, if people have got questions, we'll take a few in a row and then ask him to sum up at the end. Munter, I think you're first.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ed. very exciting about having a facilities that the whole city, mainly residents, can utilise. One specific question, in the budgeting that and the consultation, will you be looking at transportation for people that have mobility issues, elderly carers, people with children, specifically in other parts of the city, such as Mywood or Port Soken?
Any other comments? Simon.
It's just about the CityGen option, which I think that the point is well made for the capital spend. It would be helpful to know what the impact on running costs is of that option.
Anybody else? Sure.
Again, it would be helpful to know how disruptive the works are on Fan Street, please. What it involves.
Christopher.
Thank you for the paper and your continued attention to the tennis courts. It's much appreciated by my constituents. Yeah, so just really it's on costs. It says here replacement boilers not is feasible but inconsistent. I get all that, but there's no actual clear cost as to what that would cost, or am I missing it? Thank you. And the other options which are stated and which are discussed but not priced. Thank you.
Okay. Right, Simon.
Okay, so on the transportation issue, no, that's not budgeted for in the refurbishment of the leisure centre. That's really a capital budget. If there is that need in terms of users from any part of the city who need transportation, we'll need to look at that within the operator contract. I think we would need to fund that additionally, and I think that will be a request back to members were we to lay on that sort of funding for any member of the community. We will certainly try and improve the accessibility of the existing facilities so that it better meets a wider range of local needs, despite the constraints of the site as it is.
Sorry, Jim, my question specifically was, so would that be part of the consultation then? Will you include that, highlight that specific point in the consultation because it's funding and requirement?
I think the consultation will be on the design of the centre rather than on the means by which people may come or go or access the centre. I think that would be a wider issue, but probably not part of this consultation, which is really about what the facility mix is, what are some of the difficult questions that need to be asked about. One of the considerations is, do we utilise the sports hall to provide gym equipment in that space rather than in the current space? So questions like that to weigh what the appetite of future users might be.
We'll go on to the other two questions.
I'm going to hand over to my colleague Mark, who I think can say something about the running cost issues and particular price. I think the recommendation we've taken forward is based mostly on our policy commitments as an organisation, but Mark has got more technical knowledge on that sort of detail.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, we undertook a study comparing a number of low carbon options compared to the existing use of the gas boilers. None of the low carbon options are going to be the same or lower cost than gas boilers, and that's generally the case across the board when moving to electrification of heating. The higher electricity prices, that's pretty much a given for any kind of low carbon option at the moment for many sites. Compared to the alternative low carbon options, the CityGen connection comes out very favourably in the short term. And we are working very closely with E.ON, who own the CityGen network, looking at their plans to expand and further decarbonise the CityGen network to access lower cost source of low carbon heat, such as waste heat. And that gives an opportunity that in the kind of short to medium term, the costs could come down further for that connection to CityGen. Whereas if we pursued another option, you're kind of just locked into that specific technology and the way the heat's been generated.
Okay, I think the disruption question you should ask again at your, I think is they're meeting Triple Gate members later. So I think that will be a larger conversation. Okay, so people happy to both note this report and to go ahead with the CityGen proposal?
Sorry, I did hear that it's going to be less expensive. to use the low carbon. Like, I can understand that, but there's no indication. I'd appreciate if there is any indication on how much more, because it does state that the project budget is based on the replacement of the existing boilers. I'm not advocating for them. I'm just curious.
Okay. So
I can't say that an early indication, and these are rather high level figures that we have put within the budget. The replacement boiler costs, we think that would be circa £500,000. There will be additional costs to connect to the CityGen network, but that is money for which we would seek additional funding from the Section 106 carbon offset pot for that purpose. That would be, I believe, an additional £1 million worth of cost. But that's within that carbon offset budget rather than from the refurbishment budget, and obviously is consistent with the corporation's agreed policy on climate mitigation.
No, as stated, I'm just trying to get clarity, not challenging the policy.
Thanks, Christopher. Leila.
Sorry, but wasn't the question about the difference to running costs, which surely would be lower with the CityGen option?
I think I'll invite Mark.
Oh, thank you. I think that was the first question I was addressing on running costs, where the running costs for any low carbon option that we've studied are going to be higher than the existing running cost. But with the CityGen option, there's the opportunity that is looking like the lowest running cost option from the outset, with the opportunity of further decreasing running costs in the short to medium term. As the CityGen network expands, it can deliver more competitive pricing through economies of scale to selling to more customers, and also accessing lower cost forms of waste heat.
Okay, people happy? Right. Okay, I think we've agreed that, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. That is agreed. So turning to item 9, which is the City and Hackney Safeguarding Children Partnership Annual Report for 2024 to 25. And this is for information, but is found in your main agenda pack on page 73.
Okay, and I think Rory, you're going to say a few words. Hello, Rory. It's a long time since we've spoken.
Hello, Steve. How are you? Yes, I'll just say a few words. I'm aware your agenda is very packed, and I'm just here for information. But just by way of introduction, I'm Rory McCallum. I'm the Senior Professional Advisor for the Safeguarding Children Partnership. You have in your pack the Safeguarding Partnership's Annual Report for 24-25. It's a statutory requirement for annual reports to be published by local safeguarding partners, and there's now a deadline for that to be published by the 30th of September. Just by way of summary, the broad foundations of good safeguarding practice are built on strong leadership, stability in the workforce, manageable caseloads, and an appetite to learn. And I think when you read through the annual report, notwithstanding the fact that there are a number of challenges from a national perspective and to some extent a local perspective reflected, there's confidence against all of those measures as they relate to the City of London. You'll see in the introduction from the Independent Safeguarding Children Commissioner, he's provided his kind of independent overview of the state of the nation, so to speak. And the City is demonstrating good performance, good stability, continued improvement across kind of key facets of safeguarding. So that's been reflected certainly through this reporting period, the outstanding rating for children's services from Ofsted, a continued effective early help offer and a care leaver offer that is paying dividends for those children and families who are engaged in those services. Continued stability in the workforce. Colleagues in the City of London Police more recently have had some good news off the back of their Peel inspection, but the annual report kind of touches on some of the work that had been underway that led to that improved inspection outcome for them. There's continued positive engagement and interface with education colleagues in the City of London, albeit the landscape is slightly different there compared to elsewhere. So by way of summary, Chair, positive governance, strong leadership, no serious incident notifications, and the report kind of captures some of the detail around specific areas such as the ladder arrangements and some of the data in terms of the child protection activity that's happened within the City of London. Just by way of introduction, I think that probably suffices. The report largely speaks for itself, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Rory. Any questions or comments? Anne.
Thank you very much for the report, and congratulations to everybody who got the outstanding and good reports. Just for next year, I just wonder if we could possibly have a comment from City Housing. I see there's a comment from Hackney Housing with particular reference to damp and mould. Would that be possible next year to have something from housing? Also related to that, next year, would it be possible to have a comment on the impact of AWAB's law and the actions that the City and Hackney have taken to address cases which are related to that law? Thank you.
Beverly, do you want to come with your question, and then we'll ask Rory.
Thank you, Rory, and thank you for the update. Beverly Ryan, Chair of Governors at the Aldgate School. I've just got one question around the percentage of children in primary school in receipt of school meals, and just around how that that number was ascertained, because we know all children receive free school meals in London. So are we confident that that figure is accurate, or do we think that some children don't claim? We know that some people don't come forward as eligible for free school meals. So I suppose just a caution around that figure. And also, again, congratulations on to those who got the outstanding on the children's services. I suppose also I'm a little concerned that the contacts to LADO are on the increase, and the percentage of assessments completed within 45 days are on the decrease, just because of the impact that has on families and children. So that's more an observation, but I'm querying the 23.2% eligible for free school meals.
Okay. Anybody else? No. Okay. Well, Roy, if you want to have a go answering those, maybe Chris needs to come in at some point as well, but you have a go first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So with regards to the point about housing, good point, well made. I mean, the report itself is generated from kind of contributions that come in from partners, but the housing agenda, absolutely relevant. When AWAB's case first came to light, I can reassure colleagues that the city's kind of response to that was tested at the city board. So absolutely, next year we will look to strengthen our narrative in that space, and I'm pretty sure we'll have more evidence to be able to demonstrate kind of impact over the course of 25-26. With regards to the free school meals, again, I wouldn't be able to answer that question with any great surety. Again, the data was submitted to us as a partnership team on the free school meals. If there are queries around that, maybe Chris or Judith or someone else could pick up on that issue. I can pick up on the LADO issue very, very briefly. Yes, there was a noted increase in contacts. I think there's two ways of looking at that. And I think if the LADO was in the room, they would probably be saying that this is part consequence of their extended reach, the extended training that they've been doing with the LADO in Hackney, that is raising a greater level of awareness around reporting. Now, even though the contacts increased, not all of those ended up resulting in formal action by the local authority designated officer. So I think there's a level of reassurance that that is around the profile of the LADO being strong in the City of London, which is a positive thing. And in terms of the timescales around the assessments, again, Chris may want to come in on here, but we're talking small numbers. So, you know, in terms of 1 or 2 or 3 assessments maybe being out of timescale for whatever reason, we know sometimes those happen for perfectly genuine reasons, that can flip the stats. That would probably be my answer to that, unless, like I said, unless Chris or Judith have any different view on that.
Thanks, Roy. Chris, do you want to say something? Do you always also want to explain to people that might not know what ladder?
Yeah.
is?
Thank
I do, but you explain.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, absolutely. It's the local. It's got the acronym is Local Authority Designated Officer. So, officer is responsible for overseeing, and managing any allegations that are made against professionals or volunteers working with children. So, hopefully, that's clear. I can certainly respond to the question about the assessment timescales. Roy's absolutely right. Without getting any details here, appreciate we're in public session, but that actually related to one family where there were several children. It was known to the management throughout that process, and it was signed off to go over the 45 days. It had to, just because it was person-centred. I'm also pleased to say that performance this year, statistically, obviously small numbers, but it's at 100% in that area. And I think bring Ellie in on the question around free school meals. Thank you.
Yeah, the data on free school meals comes from the school census. So obviously we're only able to use the Aldgate school for that data because we don't have other schools that submit the school census to us. So that's where that information comes from, and it is those children who are eligible for free school meals under the specific criteria, as opposed to all children who get the free school meals. So yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose my query around that is, because we know all children get preschool meals, we know that not all families who are eligible for them apply for them. So I suppose my query is around how is that figure. So yes, that will be the number of that have been submitted as requesting free school meals. But I think we just need a caveat around that, because actually there will be more children eligible, but they don't apply because they've no need to apply in order to get a free school meal. So my caution is that may be the families who have applied, but I'm not sure that it's all who are eligible.
Yeah, thank you. We're aware that's a national issue. So yeah, no, absolutely right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thanks very much, Rory. Everyone happy to note this report? Okay. Okay, 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee. And we therefore turn to item 10, which is the Stronger Communities Funds and a report 2024 and 25, an analysis of funds impact over the last 5 years. This is in your information pack on page 3. I am aware that one member has wanting to ask a question on this one.
Okay, this is for information only, and we are giving John Fletcher permission to ask a question.
It's not so much ask a question, it's really just to inform the committee how important this fund is to Port Oaken. It really is tremendously important. We lay on activities every year. Each estate has its own party, shall I say, which brings the estates together. We have a mammoth fiesta on the Aldgate Square every year. Over 500 people we managed to feed 2 years running. And it's not just the fund that's putting towards this. Still in F contributes towards it. The local hotels come out and provide food. The local pub provided free pizza. So it really is a community effort. We take the 2 coaches from the ward to the seaside every year. And for some people, it's the only chance they get to. They genuinely do not go out the city unless we take them in the coach. I know I remember in school reading about this happening to Victorian children, and I couldn't believe it. Well, it actually exists today. Some of our children would not get out of the square or the city unless we took them, and we tend to focus on the Clacton Air Show. So not only do we get a bit of sea and sun, we get Spitfires as well, which is kind of nice. And we just held the most successful Halloween party we've ever done. I'm very keen on that because it stops parents being put under pressure by the kids to go out trick-and-treating, which I think is an appalling American habit. It's just wrong. So there we are. So this community fund, along with the contributions we get from CNF, is very important to our community cohesion. And I think most people who visit the ward would agree that despite the very varied cohort, the community cohesion is excellent. So thank you to this fund. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, John. Thanks for letting us know about that. Okay, that was for information only. So, 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Chair. So we now turn to item 11, which are the updates from the subcommittees, allocated members and portfolio holders. I believe one member would like to bring a short verbal update to the committee today.
Okay, before that one member does that, I think in future this should go to housing subcommittee where there can be a longer conversation about allocated member updates. So this will be the last time we hear at this committee about this item. And it's John Fletcher who's going to say a few words.
Again, sorry about this, me again. No, I didn't bring a full report this time because it's so recent since the last full report I brought. However, I would like to say that if you remember, I did, as an addendum to the last allocated members report for Middlesex Street, a thing that I called the snagging report with all sorts of jobs, over 30 jobs that just hadn't been completed on the estate. I'm very pleased to say that Peter, the Deputy Director, has taken us on board. There's now an itemised list. Some jobs have already been done, some jobs are underway, and the others will be programmed in for the future. So thank you for that. We'll be bringing a full report to the next housing subcommittee, or one after, depends on the timing.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, John. Okay, 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Chair. So we now turn to item 12, which are the questions relating to the Letters Works Committee. We have one question received in advance from Deputy John Fletcher.
Oh, really? Yes, it's the one about the invoices and the photograph. Do you want me to ask your question, John? At Housing Subcommittee, John suggested that in order for us to get some information about whether a small job has been done well by the contractors, that when they send in the invoice, they also send in a photo of the job, so that we would then have a record of whether it's done well or not, which I think many of us thought was a really good idea. And I think John's asking whether our officers are happy to implement this. Beverly.
Thank you. It is a process we have in place already. So all of our contractors are required to submit photographic evidence along with their invoice. And in terms of post-inspecting completed work, so an element of that is already done desktop by looking at those completion photographs, so that we don't have to physically send somebody out. So it is a requirement that we have of contractors. Sometimes it's not always full compliance and we have to go back and ask for that information, but is something that they are required to provide.
Are you happy with that answer? Good. Okay, thanks, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Committee. So we therefore turn to item 13, which is any other business, none of which I've been notice of. And seeing none now, we now turn to item 40, which is the exclusion of the public. So I'm going to ask members if they're content to exclude the public for the remaining items of business at this juncture.
Are you happy with that? Yes, they are.
Thank you. There will just be a short pause whilst the live stream ends.